when we did this trip, we realized, I mean, any other time you take a vacation, it's a weekend or it's a week, and you're already dreading that day where you have to go back to work. You know?
Yeah.
And this is the first time, I think, in my entire adult life that I had 18 full days.
Yeah.
And it felt like time just slipped away, and it just didn't matter what day of the week it was, what time of day it was. It didn't matter. There were no deadlines. There were no, we got to be back to work in 2 days. And I think that's when we really started to, I think that was the beginning of us realizing, like, what are we actually doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing? We're running in life, like running through life. And we're to the point where we were living to work versus working to live.
So this is called Been a While, and we call it that for two reasons. Number one, those that have come back the second, third, fourth time, we've had people here, I think the fourth is the most. It's been a while, so we're glad to see you again.
Yeah.
So the other side of it is we invite people to come and been a while, just kind of hang out in the bin.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a double meaning thing.
Sure.
We already like it back here, I'll say that.
Okay, good.
If we could, we'd stay. We could stay longer.
Oh, you can stay. You can stay.
We gotta get it. We gotta get east.
Oh, that's what they all say. That's what they all say.
Right?
So we're here tonight, this evening, with Drew and Marlene.
Yeah.
Got it right that time. And they hail from back east, as you'll soon find out.
Yep.
And you're from the east as well?
Yes. Yep.
Philly?
No, Pennsylvania, but Erie.
Erie. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Opposite of the end.
And this is Jack the gardener. Jack is a retired pastor who comes and hangs out here and does a lot of work. And when he's not working for himself, he's helping me out. So
Nice.
It's good.
we let him.
It's free labor. You know?
Free labor, exactly. Yeah, I have to give him a bottled water once in a
He
while.
does.
I have to
Just
remind
hose them
him.
off.
Toss
Well, you
them
gave
in
me
the-
strawberries tonight.
We did give you strawberries tonight. Yeah, this is true. So anyway, it's good to have you guys.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you for having us.
when you showed up, a lot of these times, these conversations that I have to kind of really be thinking ahead, thinking of questions and stuff like that. I could tell immediately that was not going to be a problem tonight. After Drew, you came up and started.
I have a tendency to talk too
He's a
much.
bit of a chatty Cathy.
And that's what I like. So we're excited to hear your story, hear about your RVing life. You've got some life experiences that you want to talk about as well, that some of your story of how you got to where you're at today that we want to hear.
Yeah.
This is not a Christian podcast per se, but we just all happen to be Christians here tonight. So I don't, let's talk about it. That's
Worked
totally
out that
fine
way.
with me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's all good. So tell me about your story. You decided to sell your house and RV full time,
Yeah.
and
we
you did this in a matter of how long?
It took us about 8 months before we were wiped dry of everything except that motorhome and a few items.
Yeah.
And the dogs. We didn't sell them. So
That's why they were okay.
the
Good.
story kind of behind it is we met about 7
years, I
September
think,
will
yeah.
be 7.
Yeah.
September 30th will be 7 years. Will be our first date. I met her on the internet. I was not a Christian at the time. I didn't have any kind of belief really. My world, I was raised around the Catholic world around Philadelphia area.
Sure.
I'm from a town called Havertown, which is about 5 minutes from 69th Street, which is the Tower Theater where
In Philadelphia.
the Doors, all kinds of bands played. It's right at the start of Philadelphia there.
Okay.
And we did move when I was a kid to Atlanta for a bit and then moved back due to my father's work, but never really was raised religious. My father was atheist. My mom's a non-practicing Catholic. So all I ever seen was Catholic churches when I go to funerals and weddings and all that stuff. And
Right.
just really I never grasped it. It never gravitated to me. I didn't gravitate to it. And it just was what it was.
Sure.
Never was married before. I was in my 40s when I met her. And like I said, we met on the internet. She was 3.5 hours away. The funny story to that is I forgot that the dating app followed you where you were, your location, and we were in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, going to a fair. My best friend, his wife and sister and husband, and we go every year. So I was sitting at the hotel with his sister and husband and their son, and I was just scrolling the app, and she popped up and started talking to her. And then I get home and I realize, oh, she's 3.5 hours away. I was like, well, I'm already knee deep in it. Let's see what happens. So that following weekend, I went back up. I stayed at a hotel the night before, and our first date was shooting. We went shooting on our first date.
Oh, fun.
So it was an early afternoon date, and it led into dinner, and we had a great time, and we've been together since.
Yeah.
You know,
Awesome.
we got married during COVID. And again, like I said, I was not a Christian, and she was raised Christian, and that kind of is a whole story on its own. But the evening before our wedding, I was struggling if I should marry her because she was Christian and I was not. And
Were you afraid she'd be a good influence on you?
Yeah, maybe.
Right.
You know, I'd have to
I don't know. Sometimes he tells me he regrets the whole situation.
So, you know, the evening before, you know, she would always tell me, you just got to ask. You just got to ask. However you want to ask, you just got to ask, and he'll answer. And I never really asked. I would mumble on my breath, but I was always afraid to ask because I knew if I asked and I got an answer, my life would change. And so I got to the point the evening before our wedding, and my mom, my family, my mom, my father, her mother, her brother, and other people were in the house. Everybody was asleep. She was asleep next to me. And I just had a conversation, you know, and I felt this is what I was going to do. I wasn't going to pray. I wasn't going to go on the what people see as people praying on your knees or with your hands, you know, all these things. I'm like, you know what, if I'm going to talk, I'm just going to have a conversation, and that's what I'm going to do. And I literally just kind of looked up and I was like, am I doing the right thing here? If I'm doing the right thing, you need to let me know. Somehow, some way, you got about 18 hours before I'm at the altar. So, not even. I think it was 12 hours. I said, you got to show me something, and I'll decide at that point. And the next day, you know,
I had no idea.
She didn't know anything.
Oh, okay.
So you know, like I didn't know any of this at all.
Right. So we got up the next day. We're running around. My one best friend's a photographer, and he drove up and he was doing the pictures. And we were on a bridge, small town, where she had moved from Erie to the center of the state.
Just to pause you there, it wasn't a traditional wedding, so not your Saturday. We were married at 5:30 on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
So you know, we decided to do our photos first, and it was just very small, and so it was. That's why we were together most of the day getting photos and all that kind of stuff before the wedding.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the day of our first date.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the day we chose.
Okay.
You know, we talked about doing the whole big thing and this, that, and the other, and then finally we were like, what? You know,
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, why? We're not 20 something.
Yeah,
Why are we gonna spend $20,000, $30,000, $50,000?
Yeah.
So we just said, you know what? Who wants to come? Come. There was about 20 people that came, and that was it. It was on a Wednesday evening.
Yeah.
So about a half hour before we were headed to the church, we were on a bridge taking pictures, and people are driving by, honking their horn, waving.
You know, they're on their way home from work for crying out
We were
loud.
dressed up.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So it was 5 o'clock or whatever it was, and these two girls, and of course, you know, they were cute. Two cute girls and a Mustang drove by, and they all of a sudden turned around. They beeped and whatnot, but then all of a sudden they turned around. And they get out, and they're like high school girls. And the one girl walks up.
We just thought they were there to congratulate us.
Yeah, we didn't know any different. Her name was Skylar and Danielle. And her name was Skylar. And she goes, I am so sorry to interrupt you. And we're like, no, you're fine. What's going on? And Marlene's like, she probably wants to just congratulate her.
Yeah.
And she goes, we were passing by and we were going to keep going. And she goes, God told me I needed to turn around and pray for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Wow.
and nobody knew what I had done the night before. And I'm in my head, and excuse my French, I was like, well, shit, here we go. You know, and I was like, this is it. I knew
That's
at that
amazing.
moment my life was going to change, and it was not going to be an easy task for me.
Sure.
Just because of how my life was prior.
And at
Mhm.
that moment, it was like, for me, it was just like, oh, that's really sweet. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't meant for me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's really great. Yeah, sure. You know,
And, yeah.
and I didn't think anything. I didn't realize what
You didn't
what the weight
know
of it
the
was.
story, the
No, she had
backstory
no
that
idea.
got to that point.
So we sat in a circle, the four of us. My buddy Gabe took some pictures, and Skylar prayed. And then I turned to him and I said, "Listen, the church is literally right around the corner."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Why don't you guys come, and just be there, and it would mean a lot."
Yeah.
And so they said sure, and literally they got back in the car, they drove to the church,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't get there yet. But Mike, our pastor, who is a good friend of ours, him and his wife Shelley, he's at the door greeting people, and he knows everybody.
Uh-huh.
He's been in that town. His family's been. It's a very small town. They've been in
Yeah.
that town their whole life. They know everybody, and they knew everybody we knew.
Mm-hmm.
Now there was some questions of who was coming up for me that he never met before, but
Sure.
two high school girls. He was like, "Can I help you?" And she's like, basically told him what had happened,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, "Come on in." Absolutely, come on in. He knew I needed something. He
Sure,
knew
yeah.
where I kind of stood.
Mm-hmm.
We did the whole meeting with him before getting married and talking about a multitude of different things. But he knew I was on the fence about everything.
Sure.
Like I was unsure of everything. So he knew immediately as soon as she told him, he was like, "Oh yeah, come on in. Like you're the one that's doing it, So they came in, and that was our story. Then eventually I told her, and I don't even know if I told her that night. I don't even know when I told her.
I think it was later that evening.
Yeah, Mike, when I came back, Mike just kind of looked at me. He goes,
Because you broke down and you were like, I just can't.
yeah,
And that's when I knew that it was more. It was you. It was
Right.
For you. Yeah.
Wow.
And Mike said the two girls are here, and I said, that was it. And he says, yeah, I kind of figured.
We got to do a really fun follow up. Then the girls are still in town, and we went home. We flew home to visit separately because of the dogs, and
Yeah.
so I was home, and she was a waitress where we were having dinner with my pastor and his wife
Danielle,
and stuff.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I got to tell her, like, because they didn't know, like, after that, you're friends with them on social media or whatever,
Sure.
but
Mhm.
they didn't. I don't think they realized the impact because Drew didn't say anything at that time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I got to kind of share with her, like, you have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
The few minutes that you guys chose to turn around and obey that command, what it did for us.
Yeah.
And so, we were all kind of in tears, and it was just crazy. And then he got to see her when he flew home,
Nice.
and I flew back.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so that was a nice follow-up, I think.
It is.
And-
And I talked to Skylar, who initiated it really, truly,
Mm-hmm.
a lot, but I haven't seen her really but once at a gas station.
Yeah.
Even though it's a tiny little town, she just worked a lot and was in high school and then eventually
Mhm.
finished high school. But I did at one point say to her, you have no idea what you did, and I can't even explain
Squirrel.
it.
It's a bunny.
It's
It's a
fine.
bunny.
They're not going to go
Or
anywhere. One day I'll really tell you the story, but
Mhm.
and so they're still, especially Skylar, in our life, just not an everyday.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And I never want to not have the ability to see those two, just because of that.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So anyway, going forward, our RV life story. We were married, and I eventually during COVID, Philadelphia got crazy. People were out of their mind, and I called
Mhm.
her and I said my job was down there, and I would just commute back and forth. And I
Mhm.
said, listen, I'm coming up there. I don't know how long I'm packing a bag. I can't be down here.
Mm-hmm.
And my boss at the time was like, well, you're not visiting customers anyway, so you can do whatever you want. You're just working from home. And I already had
Nice.
kind of work from home, but we visit
Uh-huh.
customers. So at that point, we weren't even visiting. Only our technicians were allowed to go to the customers and fix machinery. So I kind of just packed almost a lot of stuff and
Mhm.
took it up there, and I never really came back. You know, COVID went on for how many years, and this was at the beginning. And eventually I got rid of my place down there and moved up there with her permanently. And we never had that honeymoon, you know.
Sure.
And so 2021, we convinced
Now,
her.
what were you doing? What
I was a service manager for a European industrial machining company.
Okay.
And I covered a load of guys that was Eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and New York City and Long Island.
Wow. Okay.
And so we did industrial compressors.
Okay.
So, and everybody from Coca-Cola to Merck Pharmaceutical to Boeing. My biggest account at the time was Boeing in Ridley Park, Pennsylvania. So,
Okay.
I mean, there's
That's
a lot
huge.
of machinery.
Yeah.
But, I mean, a lot of our machines, $500,000 for an air compressor. You know, you don't think about an air compressor like that, but they exist.
Yeah.
You know, there's three
I hear
things
ya.
that make the manufacturing world go around, and that's water, air, and electric. And people are like, air? Yeah. You know, this takes air, not just the air in the air, it takes compressed air to make these products. You know, it takes like 300-400 psi to blow one of these bottles.
Really?
Yeah. So it's an industry, and I didn't even know it existed. I was in the car business previously. I ran Porsche service departments in Saab.
Oh, nice.
Prior to that, for over 20 years of my life, and I just had enough of car dealerships.
Sure.
All that. So, and then my wife.
I was a nurse.
A nurse? Wow.
She was a
Succinctly wrap that
clinician
up.
in an ER.
I've
She ran
been
the ER when she was there.
Nice.
I've been in the emergency room pretty much my whole life. I was a paramedic initially for about 6 years. Then I went back to school for nursing, and it just made sense to go into emergency medicine.
Sure.
So I've been in the ER about 18 years. There was a couple years where I did some telehealth, and then that was too boring. I went back. And so at the time, I was a clinician. Those last few years, I was a supervisor there.
Okay.
So, you know, we both had pretty high stress jobs. You know, he's running a crew of guys, and he was 24/7, had a separate cell phone for work. He was never really off at all. So, you know, you could get a call at 2 a.m., you could get a call at dinner, and you have to take it. There was never, the company just never, you know, there was never downtime for that.
Wow.
You know, I could go home and kind of let that run off my shoulders. However, you know, helping to manage an ER is a lot of stress, you know, and like a lot of critical thinking goes into that, and just a lot of peopling all day long, and you know, dealing with all that
and everything else.
So
Jack and I both we're familiar with the ER room.
We are.
Oh, are you?
We won't go into it now, but
Yeah, we are.
yeah, we really are. So
hopefully not a lot of personal experience.
well, just recent.
Oh gosh,
So heart catheter 2 weeks ago. So,
Okay, yeah.
and I'm still here. So
Well, that's good.
That is good. That is good.
Jack had a different story. He was actually dead for 23 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, well,
So
That's a long time.
doctor got him back, and
That you don't hear that too often. I will say that, you know, I think the layperson thinks that when we start CPR, or when we do those resuscitative measures, that we get everybody back. And the
it's not
truth
true.
is, it's very small. And so you're a walking miracle.
He is. For
I
sure.
really am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's go on. I mean, we could go off on
sure.
this, and I would love to,
We're
because
doing good.
it's an amazing story.
So
But
we we never did the honeymoon thing because it was in the middle of COVID, and it was the peak of COVID, and we just didn't bother with it. You know, we're like, whatever. You know, we spent a couple grand on the wedding, and that was it. And figured, well, we'll worry about it later. And
We had already had a couple road trips under our belt at that time.
Right.
We did the New England states.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And at the time we only had Charlotte, our first dog.
yeah.
So, you know, they always kind of went where we went.
Sure.
And so when we were thinking about, okay, well, what do we want to do? We decided, well, a road trip, why not? Let's go out west. Well, how much time can you get off? Because there's a lot of driving involved. And just the way we were able to, he's probably right, just the way we were able to string it together, we were able to
There
get
he is.
18 days off in a row, which is unheard of in the ER, and then also, you know, for his career. So,
Seriously, I bet.
so so yeah, so we ended up planning this road trip, which, you know, he was the mastermind of. Did a couple of months to kind of plan that
I
whole
worked
thing.
at home, so I just, you know, when I wasn't busy, it was,
And at
Oh,
the
yeah.
time,
you know,
I mean, we'd never even stayed in an RV.
Uh-huh.
Like, it just was not a
Wow.
thing, you know?
Wow.
Like, we'd never, it wasn't even, I don't think really on our radar, was
no,
it?
we
Or-
weren't even thinking about it. I mean, you know, I was wandering YouTube and saw the RV life people, but
Sure.
never really registered anything about it. And
Uh-huh.
and you know, we had an SUV, and I had a Thule. We put a Thule on the top and threw them in the back, threw everything on the Thule, so they had the whole back with the seat down.
Yep.
And we just headed west, you know, and I had planned everything from, you know, the start was Sioux Falls, the first to see something. I had never been beyond Ohio, and I'm talking about
Never
just
crossed
over
the
border.
Mississippi.
Right.
Wow.
I'd never been.
Wow.
I was in LA once. I flew a buddy of mine, a very old friend, a close friend of mine, was retiring from the Marines.
Okay.
And his retirement ceremony was Camp Pendleton, and this was before
Okay.
I met her.
But before that, I mean, really,
Yeah,
other
but
than that.
before that, I had never been out there, you know. So I always wanted to see the West, you know,
Oh,
the
yeah.
Old West. That's kind of what I was seeing it, and
Sure.
so, you know, she just kind of went along, and I was just like, okay, how about here, here, here? And she's like, okay, and, you know, and the only thing we really both agreed upon was on the way back was going to see the Ark,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And that was one of the most incredible things to see ever, as I mentioned
Have you
earlier.
guys been there ever?
I have not. Have you been to the Ark?
I haven't, but I've heard.
You know, it talks about all the measurements, right, in the Bible, and you're like, I can't even fathom
Yeah.
what that would look like.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't see the Ark from the parking lot, by the way. You have to get bussed to it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that
So
right?
it's
Oh,
not
wow.
like you pull up and just, oh, there it is. You know,
Uh-huh.
you have to get in line. So it's like this suspense.
Yeah.
You come around the corner and you're like, oh, that's what a cubic foot.
Wow.
You know, it's
Wow.
just crazy.
Yeah, I
It's-
have a picture of her next to
Very
it.
well.
She's this big,
Yeah.
and it's this big.
It's
on
just
the picture.
so
Wow.
interesting. And it
And
was
it's
built to
incredible.
spec.
They trick you because the way you pull in, you have to go through an arch, which is the rainbow. It's a rainbow arch,
Mhm.
and you walk up to it. And of course, you see some foundation things, but you see the boat.
Mhm.
But on the back end, when you're in the ark, you're like, there's these areas where you walk in, and it doesn't seem like it's part of the boat.
Uh-huh.
Well, on the back side, they blew it out, and there's these square, you know, parts of the buildings.
For
Uh-huh.
functional things.
It's for
bathrooms
functional,
and-
yeah.
Oh,
So
okay,
you
sure.
You don't see that from the front. You just see the arc,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
and then you
If
see
you
from
ever
the back.
get a chance.
It is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
like I was explaining to you, it explains everything to you like you're a 5-year-old.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
went to the Creation Museum, which is 45 minutes away, which was built first,
Mhm.
and then they built the Ark. And the Creation Museum is for someone,
It's a lot of reading and a lot
for someone like you, a
Intellectually,
pastor
yeah.
who understands the Bible. to
Not
a T,
to say you're not
like
intellectual.
You would,
Well,
you
no,
would
but there's
understand it all.
but there's a
For
lot
me,
of
it was
like
tough.
heavy reading and looking
Yeah.
at, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
versus,
was-
you
yeah,
know,
too
just quick
much.
clips and
Mhm.
yeah.
And it was,
Anyway,
for me, it was too
again,
much.
it's
Yeah.
another off story.
Right, it's an off story.
Sorry.
But anyway, so I planned this trip to go through South Dakota and Wyoming, Yellowstone, you know, Cody and all those places, and you know, we hopped in the car and we went. And as we're driving, we're just talking about life and different things, and really just about how burnt out we were. You
Yeah.
know, and how fried we were, and we're not happy. We're happy with each other, but we're not happy with life.
Sure.
Well, it felt like we had lost our purpose.
Yeah.
You know?
Mhm.
Yes, I was a nurse in the ER, and yes, I helped people in a lot of their crisis, right?
Yeah.
You
Sure.
know?
Yeah.
But when you're from the nursing side of it, it's just so incredibly busy, and there's so much stress and so much going on that you kind of, it becomes more of just, you know, trying to get that job done, and you don't
Yeah.
have time to spend that time with the patients. You know,
Wow.
you're already moving on to the next thing. You know,
Yeah. Yep.
and so, you know, you lose that whole purpose that you had maybe initially when you went into that. And,
Wow.
you know, so it becomes, you know, a paycheck, and you're just worn out and drained, and you don't really feel like you're hitting that goal anymore. Does that make sense?
It does.
And when we did this trip, we realized, I mean, any other time you take a vacation, it's a weekend or it's a week,
Mhm.
and you're already dreading that day where you have to go
Sure,
back to work.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure,
You know?
yeah.
And this is the first time I think in my entire adult life that I had 18 full days.
Yeah.
And it felt like time just slipped away, and it just didn't matter what day of the week it was, what time of day it was. It didn't matter. There were no deadlines. There were no, oh, we got to be back to work in 2 days. And I think that's when we really started to, I think that was the beginning of us realizing, like, what are we actually doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing? We're running in life, like running through life. And we're to the point where we were living to work versus working to live. There was really no, and I'm sure we had great friends. There was intermittent trips to like Philadelphia. And, you know, of course, I'm not trying to paint
Down the shore.
a
for
rough
the
picture
weekend.
by any means. But for the most part, you know, you realize that that's pretty much what a lot of Americans do is it's all about that work week, and you know, your life becomes off balance.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Especially if it's something higher stress like that, at least in my opinion, I feel.
I would agree. Yeah.
So that was the first time that we actually could take a breath, and we were like, man,
Breathing is kind of nice.
wouldn't that be great if we could do something that, you know, was more this speed, you know?
And we had a very cushy life. I mean, our biggest bill was the mortgage. We had no debt. You know, we had 3 cars. We had a Mercedes, a 4Runner, a Subaru. You know, everything was taken care of. Amazon coming every day. We never had a need. We bought what we wanted. We don't have kids. We had the dogs. And it was easy. You know, and if something came up, okay, we just pay for it. You know?
And people think, if again, the American dream, it sounds like we were so successful and we were checking all the boxes and we weren't happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do know what
It was
you mean.
all materialistic, all of it.
Yeah.
And we still felt like we had no purpose, that we weren't doing what we were called to be doing, that just those like really things at the end of the day that really matter, we didn't check any of those boxes. You know?
Wow.
And I had said to her, you know, I feel like we're being called to do something else, but I don't know what that is. I don't know what it looks like. But I don't think what we're doing is purpose, has purpose at all. And it just doesn't feel right, and we're not happy. You know, and she just was like, well, what are you thinking? And I'm like, I don't know. And we just continued as we're driving and going, we're talking, and I said, you know, I see all these RV life videos, and these people are doing this RV life. I said, not that I want to be a YouTuber, because that's I don't want to do, because people are spending 40 hours a week editing their RV life and hoping that they'll go viral, you know, if they do. And then you got to deal with being monetized and getting money from YouTube and social media. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. I'm not 20 something. I'm not looking to be famous. You know, I'm looking for a purpose. But we could do that, and maybe while we're doing that, we help people somehow. You know, and not the way of, you know, leaving the country and go to Uganda and starting an orphanage. I mean, helping the guy that's stuck on the side of the road that he doesn't know what he's supposed to do because he's never changed a flat or whatever that may be. Just, you know.
But we didn't really realize that until people would ask us, well, what was your favorite part of your trip? What did you like the best? I don't think one time we really named one area. It wasn't like, oh, I mean, we did. We would talk about.
Deadwood's cool, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, like Sturgis is
But
kind of cool.
But at the end of the day, what we remembered most was the people and the relationships and the conversations we had. So yes, we saw a lot of America, and America's beautiful, but that's not what you really remember. You're not looking through your photos of Mount Rushmore, for crying out loud. You know, you're talking about, oh my gosh, that couple we met that was from Williamsport who knew a patient that I had taken care of. Like those were the conversations that were crazy.
Yeah, I met a guy in Deadwood. We were at the cemetery to see Wild Bill, and the guy was a half hour from where I'm from. And we just got to talking, and he rented a Suburban and threw his family in, and they went out west, you know, and it was all these different people that we met on the road, and we were like, this is what life is about.
Right.
The interesting thing is, if you guys had met in Philly, in that area, or whatever, if you had met there, you probably wouldn't have even spoken to each other.
No.
You might have glanced at each other and
Yep, exactly.
maybe, but
And the only reason I heard his voice,
yeah,
and I'm big on hearing people's, like most of my family's from New York. I was born in right outside of Philly, but I know those tones.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting here at the gift shop in Deadwood, and I hear a Philly style voice, and I was like, "Where are you from?" He's like, "Ben Salem." I was like, "Get out of here!" I was like, "I'm from Havertown." He's like, "No way!" And then you just start talking, and, and you know, it's funny, you know.
Yeah,
And
never would have happened
Those
back
were
home.
the things that we really enjoyed.
Mhm.
Sturgis. We were walking past a bar, and the guy had cigars, and I'm a cigar guy. Guy had cigars in the bar, and the bouncer's like, "Hang on a second," and he goes, we had the dogs. He's like, "You can bring the dogs in."
Mhm.
We come in, and the owner of the place, guy looks like he's from ZZ Top. Super cool guy. Ends up sitting with us the entire time because of the dogs. He had a German Shepherd. And I have a picture of her at the bar with the two dogs in Sturgis, and it was the Friday before the bike week started.
We didn't
Saturday.
plan. We didn't go there for that.
Yeah,
That
it
was
just
by
so
accident.
happened.
Saturday
Yeah.
started. Friday, everybody was finishing setting up. So, I mean, that guy will always be in our memory.
Great
Oh,
guy.
for sure, yeah.
You know, he loved the dogs because they were black, and he had never really seen a black one. And you know, I guarantee you, if we rolled in there, he's going to be like, "Hey, I remember you guys from 5 years ago." You know?
That's so cool.
That's what life is about.
Yeah,
You know, it's beautiful, and Deadwood's great, and all these places are great, but it was all the people. You know, and it was a different world during COVID there. Nobody was wearing masks. Nobody cared.
Oh, in South Dakota,
Out west was a whole different world during COVID.
Yes.
You know, you know, even her being a nurse in the ER, we didn't believe in any of that. You know, that whole mask and the facts are the facts, and you know, not to get into that, but you know, we know what the truth was behind that and what masks really did and everything else in between. And you know, we both got COVID once and never had it again, and basically became immune to it.
Wow.
You know, and that was it. But anyway, it
Well,
was a different world.
what's interesting that you're talking about, you talked about the whole YouTube thing, which is what you're doing right now. In case you forgot.
Yeah.
I did actually. It just feels like conversation.
But that's what you were talking about. The whole conversation thing is exactly why I'm doing this, because the stories of people
Everybody
are so
has a story.
compelling, so compelling, and some I struggle a little more with getting them to say it, but others, man, there's right now I'm so far behind on editing 40 hours a week.
Tough.
I don't edit that much. I just let it roll, but I'm so far behind. Anyway, bottom line is, but that's exactly, it's the conversations, it's
It really
the stories.
is. It's relationships.
It's the relationships.
It's about relationships.
We're
is.
here for a reason right now. And it's
Yeah.
partly to meet you guys, partly to do this.
Yeah.
You know, but I wasn't expecting that. All I saw was you had 50 amp and the dogs could run free and you had some land. I'm like, that's perfect. The dogs need to run. They've been cooped up. And, you know, I was tired of running the generator because I'm the one that services it. So
Exactly.
it's like, and it's hard to do that when you're traveling across the country. You know, getting parts for it and then letting somebody let you do it, you know.
You haven't trained the dogs to take care of the generator?
No,
We're halfway there.
Halfway
I
there.
was more training my wife to try to take care of the generator, but that's never going to happen. I don't think. So, you know, we kept talking about, what about doing the RV?
I think we just started, from that point on, we got home, of course, life resumed.
Sure.
And then we just started looking at YouTube videos of full-time people, you know, that were doing the YouTube channel thing. And, you know, they made it seem so glorious. And,
yeah, but we kind of decided on the way
did.
back because I started selling stuff as soon as we got home.
well, that's what I'm saying. So we started watching all of that. And then at the same time, we're like, maybe we could do it. And we just started to sell things here and there from the house. And we hadn't told anybody what we were going to do. And I don't even know that we really had an idea, a full idea.
No, we didn't.
we just knew that we wanted to not do what we were currently doing.
Right.
But at the same time, I thought it would take a couple years to sell everything, especially the house,
We
because the
hammered
market
down
wasn't really that great at the time.
Uh-huh.
We cut down the Amazon packages. We
She built
got
a budget.
rid of a lot of subscriptions
Okay.
and
Get rid of all.
pointless
We
things.
saved like $700 a month in subscriptions alone.
It was dumb.
Wow.
It was dumb.
I mean, just
Yeah.
dumb stuff.
So, we really started to
I don't think
to
it's dumb. I
pilot.
think it's normal.
Yeah,
The-
Well,
unfortunately.
they made it
Unfortunately,
normal.
yes,
You know,
exactly.
Stop subscribing to things and paying for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stupid.
hmm
Yeah, so we started doing that, and it was over probably a few months were going by, and we were getting more serious about it and looking at rigs then. And,
Yeah, I started.
and
looking
like, when I say we,
Sure.
Drew. And we stupidly thought at first we could do like a van.
van,
Something
class
completely-
B,
Yeah.
and like a small class C.
Thank God we
And
did not
then-
go that route.
Yeah.
We need more
Yeah.
space.
Yeah, I really started looking at them, and I was like, no way.
Mhm.
It's going to be too small, especially with the two of them.
Right.
200 pounds of German Shepherd and us, it's like we're going to be stepping over each other.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So then
Yeah.
we went into the Class A's, and I wasn't going to do a gas because
Mhm.
I knew we were going to be in the mountains at times,
Right.
so give me a diesel pusher.
Yeah.
And I started looking at 32 and 34-foot diesel pushers, and they were very difficult to come by
hmm
because
Everybody was buying rigs at the time.
everybody was
Exactly.
buying
Yes,
rigs,
you're right.
and they wanted smaller ones.
Uh-huh.
And so they were bringing more money. Anything 36 or under diesel pushers were pulling more money
Wow.
than a 40-footer.
Wow.
And I was like, that's
Interesting.
weird. And
Yeah.
I talked to a couple guys, and they're like, it's not, because there are less of them.
Uh-huh.
And the 40-footers are hard for state parks and, the
Okay.
Yellowstones and
Sure.
all those. They don't want them. But a
Mhm.
36-foot you can get in. A 34-foot
Okay.
you can get in. So people started to realize that, and they were anywhere from 20 to 40% more price-wise.
Man.
Wow.
So I went to a 38, and then I was like, well, we might as well just go to a 40. Why
Uh-huh.
not?
Yeah.
And now, if I knew, I would have bought a 45-foot, just because of the second
Although we
half.
probably wouldn't be sitting here because we
That's-
probably wouldn't fit.
Probably
Right.
true. Yeah.
Right,
It'd be harder. Yeah.
But, I get it. The other day, we tried to get into a state park, and we couldn't get level. And I had to get my money back and get out, because
Mhm.
they're not made for these big rigs.
Right. You're right.
And the research I did, it's like, okay, if you're traveling, there's Cracker Barrels and Cabela's and Bass Pros and
Mhm.
all these places that allow you to do a one-nighter. Walmart's,
Yeah.
you can do these one-nighters.
Hip camps and harvest hosts.
Yeah, that's
all
right.
that.
Boondockers Welcome.
It's a little more harder to find harvest hosts and hip camps that take them, but
Uh-huh.
they're there.
Uh-huh.
But we made it work, and we found it. Before we found it, as she was saying, we didn't tell anybody. We were just selling stuff, and she
Mhm.
would come home, and I'd be like, "All right, empty your dressers. They're leaving tomorrow."
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that was when we were at that point. That was after.
After we talked. Okay.
So we
I'll let her tell you.
so we started to
We're selling
do the
small stuff,
budget,
I guess,
sell
then.
things,
Mm-hmm.
and we still really didn't have a full plan. We knew we wanted to get an RV, things like that, but we didn't really have a full plan.
Yeah.
And then that's when we had Bible study on Wednesday nights,
Mm-hmm.
and our pastor Mike and Shelley are always there, of course, and
Yeah.
are good friends, and so it's no big deal to talk to them afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot the bull, for a
That's
good
good.
half hour
That's
after
good.
everybody leaves.
Yeah.
So we were actually in James, and Mike had asked a question regarding the topic of the night, and even though Drew was a new Christian at that time,
I
he
still
just
think I'm
kind of
new.
you are.
We all are.
Right. When he answered it, he was able to put it in pretty succinctly in just a manner that was just kind of wrapped everything up with a nice bow.
Hmm.
And, everybody was just kind of quiet around the room like, okay, we don't really need to say much.
Mm-hmm.
And when everybody was leaving that night, then, Mike said, hey, can you just hang on a minute? I want to talk
Mhm.
to you guys before you go. No big deal. Happens
Mhm.
every week.
Yeah.
And we were standing there, and Mike came up and he said, listen, he goes, I just want you to let you know, I've been thinking about this for a while, but I got my confirmation tonight. And he said, I am just the messenger. And he's like, I'm here to tell you that you are called into missionary field, that kind of thing. He goes, I don't know what that's going to look like for you. I don't know if that's going to be taking over this church. I don't know if that means you go to another church. I don't know if that means, whatever it means for you. He's like, and I'm supposed to tell you that. And he said, you have 3 choices. This is an opportunity for you. And he's extended his hand.
Before he said that, we both looked at each other and smiled and said, well, it's funny you mentioned that. And we told him what we were thinking.
That we had lost our purpose.
That we lost our
purpose
purpose,
for something.
and this is what we were thinking. And, is there some way that we could go on the road and do this and also help somehow people? And then he's brought this up.
And then he said, well, you have 3 options. He said, you can say yes. You can say no, or you can say not right now. And he's not going to force your hand, and he's not going to, be angry no matter what you choose. He said, but this is your opportunity.
And you need to pray about it.
And I don't want you to talk to me about it. Or not to talk to me, but I don't, I want you to go home and think about it. I want you guys to pray about it, and you decide, So we went home, and the funny part is we got in the car and we didn't talk about it at all. We just went home. And probably 2 or 3 days went by, and then we decided, all right, well, we really need to, because it was like the elephant in the room at that point.
Yeah.
You
like
said
we
really need to pray about
we
this.
both were really thinking about it, but we hadn't talked about it together.
It's
So
still me. I'm like, pray about it. I'm like, that sounds weird. What's that? That's still struggle for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we're like, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. And then so we prayed, and we said, well, it was very simple. It wasn't lavishly
seconds.
done. We just said, we're okay, we'll do it.
Yeah.
So however you want us to do it. It was basically,
That's good. That's
pretty simple. And we just started moving forward with things, just kind of continued our process. But what we found was doors were opening left and right.
Wow.
So we would, someone put us in touch with a realtor who then ended up selling our house within 24 hours with little to no work that we had to do. I mean, did we
I
do
put
any?
up a couple ceiling fans. That was
I
it.
mean, it was tiny.
I
Amazing.
thought being where she lived is very small town, and being where I was from, they make you fix everything.
Oh,
The
yeah.
cracked curb, the cracked sidewalk, the dirt don't look right. The code enforcer must fix all this before.
But she was
up
like,
by
nope.
her, there was like, I just figured this woman's gonna come in and be like, you need to do this. She's like, finish the ceiling fans in the 2 bedrooms and don't touch anything.
Wow.
And then the people that bought the house sent an inspector over, and I thought this guy was going to hammer stuff at home, and he was like, it's all right. Telling these people that wanted to buy the house, it looks fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. For 24 hours, boom. It was, and we had 2 or 3
amazing.
offers
Wow.
in 24 hours. But we
Good,
went
good.
with the one because they wrote us a letter about how they felt about
Yeah.
the house and all this
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
And then not only that, but I had, if you don't know, in the nursing world, the hospitals will oftentimes pay for your schooling if you commit to them for so many years.
Yeah.
So that's what I did to go back for my bachelor's. And I had worked about 1.5 years at that point, and I owed them another 6 months, And we were planning and doing all this stuff at this time, but we were assuming we weren't going to leave till the following spring because my contract would continue for another 6 months.
We owed them
And-
20 grand.
Yeah. And I thought, well, I'm going to email HR. This is just one random day at work. I was talking to some friends, and they're like, why don't you ask? And I emailed HR, and I just said, hey, I just wanted to know my exact end date for this. I wasn't trying to get out of anything. I was just like, when is my end date? When am I done? And he misunderstood what I was asking in a good way, because he replied back and he said, he's like, well, you're done. It was December something. And he's like, but, if you left now, you would owe X amount of dollars. If you left at the end of August, you would owe $1,000.
Oh my.
And of course, she was like, I'm done. I'm not working anymore. We're finishing in August. We're paying $1,000. I was like, okay, I guess we're leaving sooner.
Wow.
You
So
know?
that was, honestly, I thought I still had thousands to pay off.
Man, that's amazing. Wow.
So I came home and I was like, I got something to tell you.
Uh-huh.
And then that sped things up. And then that's when I will say it this way, that's when this rig fell into our lap.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
at that point, I had been searching, and everything was way more than it was before COVID.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So I paid more than I wanted to,
Sure.
unfortunately.
Sure.
But it had, at the time, about 27,000 miles on it. It's an '08. It had
Yeah.
26,
Man.
27,000 miles. It was
Wow.
with its second owner,
Mhm.
husband and wife from Prescott, Arizona. Pete and Cindy, I love them to death. They're
Mhm.
great people.
Just very well kept.
Yeah, they had it for 4 or 5 years, and they literally bought it from the guy in Southern California.
Mhm.
That's where the original manufacturer was from.
Okay.
And they drove it to Parker, Arizona
Mm-hmm.
for the winter, parked it on the river, and they would drive and work. They owned a real estate company at the time, and they
Mhm.
would work remotely down there. And then when it was done, they would bring it and put it in the driveway. He's like, I took it to a couple state parks, but it's not
Wow.
Parker. So in the
Man.
amount of time
So-
they had it, they only put a couple thousand miles
So it was
on
pretty
it.
clean.
Good
It was
grief.
immaculate when we got it. And I mean, they were, again, people.
Mhm.
You know, we had to fly into Phoenix. We had to take a shuttle.
Yeah.
They waited for us. We didn't get in till 9 or 10.
Fed us dinner.
They
Mhm.
cooked us
Fed us
dinner
breakfast.
from
Wow.
scratch. His wife
Oh,
was
man.
in restaurants, and they
Awesome.
fed us breakfast. He spent all day going over the thing.
Uh-huh.
I'm friends with them on Facebook, and we talk to them every once in a while. I tried to catch up with them, but it's just been tough. She's had some
Sure.
health issues,
Oh.
but incredible people. You know, again,
Yeah.
here we go with the incredible people.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
literally, we bought it, and it sat in their driveway for a month before we went and go. Probably, I think, more than a month before we went and got it.
Yeah.
Because we had some things to deal with, and we couldn't fly out.
Uh-huh.
And I had stuff shipped to their house, like just stuff that we wanted to
Bedding,
have,
things
Mhm.
like that.
parts, and they were just graceful about
Man.
everything.
Wow.
How
you know?
amazing.
And they were so happy to meet us, and,
Uh-huh.
and,
Yeah.
and just great people. You
Oh,
know?
so cool.
And we drove it back, and that was my first experience of what it's like driving a diesel pusher, which
Mm-hmm.
I had planned sightseeing.
Mhm.
And I could drive 12 hours a day in this, like I did our SUV.
Mhm.
And no.
That's what we
Different
thought.
story.
Oh, it's
Different story.
different. And
Wow.
with it being older, it doesn't exactly have independent suspension. And Route 66, Route 40 is
Mhm.
extremely rough. And when the wind blows, and
Oh yeah.
2
you're-
hours, I'm like, I look at her, I'm like, I'm exhausted, you know. And I wasn't used to it. But we stopped at Billy the Kid's grave, and that was it. We made it
Mhm.
home,
Wow.
you know. And literally everything else just out the door, out the door, out the door. Every day there was something new. Somebody was picking up. A friend of ours bought her car.
Mhm.
You know, I had sold my 4Runner. I had an overlanded 4Runner. I sold within hours. Guy from Virginia, or no, a local guy actually bought it. And then I had a Mercedes. And I had a dealer buy that back because during COVID, you remember the cars.
Yeah,
were
the cars
priced
were.
high.
Yeah.
So I made money off of that car.
Yeah.
You know, funny enough, couple grand.
Nice.
You know, but
Yeah.
everything within hours or 24 hours, just boom, boom, boom.
Wow.
The gentleman that one of her best friends had 15 acres on the Susquehanna River.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny, he said, listen, if you guys need a place to park that thing, you know, you can, you know, do whatever. And then we really started talking about it. I said, well, can we run water and sewer? He's
Mhm.
like, yeah, as long as you pay for it, and
Sure.
I'll help you out a little bit too. And
Nice.
and he ended up buying all my shop tools. I mean, like I was
Wow.
telling you, 30 years of
Mhm.
tools
Wow.
and toolboxes, and he
Yeah.
bought all that. He bought her car, you
Man.
know, and that's kind of our home spot. Like we have an area there, and
Uh-huh.
right facing
Nice.
the biggest river of Pennsylvania.
Oh,
Wow.
cool.
You know, and
Wow.
and again, it's the grace of him allowing that. He's never leaving that property,
Mm-hmm.
and that he's like, listen, this is your home forever.
Wow.
You know, and all he's surrounded like you is farmland.
Mhm.
The next closest house is a mile.
Wow.
You know, he's at the end
Nice.
of the road,
Mhm.
and nobody else is there, just river.
Uh-huh.
You know, and it's the love and the grace of all these other people in our lives, new and old.
Mm-hmm.
It's just people were there.
One
to-
thing
to,
after another.
You
One
know,
person.
support us, and you know, most everybody really thought it was wonderful what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
We had my family was on the fence. You know, my
Sure.
father, when he was alive at the time, he's like,
Mm-hmm.
so how long you think you're going to do your job? They're going to hold your position for? I'm like, no, Dad, I'm quitting. This is it. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not going back to it because
Uh-huh.
this is part of the point of I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, you know, and my sister was on the fence of it, and they've really grown to see what it has turned into.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we had no idea where we were going. You know, we
Mhm.
gave our jobs 3 months notice. You know,
Yeah.
so they had time to replace us, and we could continue to work. I
Mhm.
worked out of the rig for 3 months.
Uh-huh.
She was still going to the ER, and because we had sold the house in 24 hours, closed in like 3 weeks.
Man.
You know, so we moved to the farm pretty quick.
Uh-huh. Sure.
And spent the summer on the river, which was the dogs had a blast.
Not all
and it
bad.
was, you
Yeah.
know, it was great. She loved it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then we just said, all right, we're going south. And the only places is my best friend who took the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
His mom lived in Myrtle Beach, so we would
Uh-huh.
stop there.
Yeah.
My uncle actually was in Delaware at the time. We stopped there, then stopped in Seoul. Her name's Mary,
Mm-hmm.
and then we went to Florida, and we wanted to go to Disney. She wanted to see Harry Potter. I wanted to see the Star Wars stuff because I hadn't been there since I was 19 or 20.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and in the midst of that, we met a couple, a family in Tampa through Hip Camp,
Okay.
and I'll let her kind of.
So we were in Tampa, and I
Mhm.
think the original reason we were there was for the RV show.
One of the reasons,
And so,
but we went before
just
that.
like anything else, you look around and there was this hip camp that was available, and
Mhm.
it actually wasn't rated for our size, but he talked to her and she was like, I mean, I think I can fit you.
Yeah.
So,
this is how she is, which is
yeah,
funny.
so
Uh-huh.
knowing her now,
Uh-huh.
Jen, if you're watching, sorry. And she,
Sorry.
so we decided to rent it, I think for a week or something like that, doesn't really matter. So we pull in, Drew's getting set up, and it's beside like a little
Canal.
canal.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's Florida.
Yeah.
So we get out, and Jen comes out to meet us. Excuse me. And
This is 3 acres tucked in Tampa. Like you would never think.
Wow.
The inner part of Tampa, it's just house.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they years ago were able to pick up this property.
Oh, man.
pretty
that
secluded for Tampa.
It was
So-
it was rough at the time, but Joe's very handy, and
Sure.
we built this whole house. But it was able to get these 3 acres just hidden right off the main highway.
Man, how
Wow.
nice.
And
So anyway,
yeah, I feel like we need to take these little things.
so we're standing at the back of the rig, and Drew's kind of parking it or whatever, and I have the dogs, and so I was like, I mean, this may be a stupid question, but are there alligators in this
Ooh, yeah.
canal? She goes, that's not stupid at all. Of course there are.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh. And so, we talked to her briefly. She just kind of welcomed us, and we kind of went about our week that we would see them here and there. But they kind of just let us be to ourselves
Yeah,
or
she
whatever.
didn't really
And-
interact too much. Just
So-
hi, very friendly.
Uh-huh.
So we left there. We went down to visit some friends and stuff
My cousin.
in Punta Gorda.
Yeah.
And then we're like, you know what, let's go back there. And so what happened was over time we had come back again, and then we would come back again. And
Wanting to play a little bit.
Yeah, she won't stop unless you throw. So
she still won't stop.
well,
So coming back again and again. And the second or third time we were there, we don't have a vehicle, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, my dad's old pickup is over here. Here are the keys. You guys can use it while you're here. No
Wow.
big deal.
Wow.
She didn't know us from Adam.
Wow.
Amazing.
And, at first we were like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. We're secretly like, yes.
Uh-huh. Seriously.
And-
let me stop. The funny part of that story was that was the moment she did that. The next day, my cousin and his best friend and a bunch of his buddies were coming down to the cigar festival in Tampa,
Mm-hmm.
and I had talked to them about meeting up with them, and
Uh-huh.
I was like, well, I got to figure out how I'm going to get to you. It was a little bit further away, but
Uh-huh.
I was like, all right, I can do Uber or maybe rent a car or something, and here we
Mhm.
go. Here's a set of
Wow.
keys to a truck.
Wow.
Man.
And it worked out just perfectly at that time.
That's
Mhm.
neat.
So
I don't know where I was.
So the next thing you know, one day she pulls up with the van. She rolls the window down. She goes, we're having fish tacos tonight. If you'd like to join us, we're going to have fish. And we're like, okay. And then next thing, we're going to church with them.
Wow.
And we're going to dinner every day with them. And we're
my
doing
goodness.
everything.
So-
Now we're in the house and we're just hanging out. We're no longer in the rigs. The dogs are running free wherever they go.
And next
know.
you kick them out and it's your house.
Yeah.
So
No.
our relationship started to
Blossom.
yeah. So we
Uh-huh.
started to get closer and closer with them, and so it was coming up to New Year's and Christmas and all that, and they have what they called a porkapalooza. They would roast a pig and have a bunch of
Oh, yeah.
friends over and stuff, and we're like, oh, that sounds really great. She's like, well, unfortunately, I have the hip camp is rented out. We're like, oh. So we were going to stay at the Tractor Supply down the street, overnight. We called and made arrangements for that, and they were like, you know what? No. They had a fifth wheel on the property that had like an attached porch, not attached, but they built a porch like around the front of it
Like a real
for a
wooden
friend.
porch.
And they're like, you know what?
okay.
We're just going to move all of this and we're going to put you right there.
Wow.
And again, we were like, you don't have to do all that. We're fine.
Wow.
We can just come up from the Tractor Supply. And they're like, no, we're going to do that. So we came in, parked there, and this was obviously New Year's Eve, so into January. And we thought we'd stay there for a couple of weeks and move on out west.
We had a
That was
plan
our
to go
plan.
to the RV show in Arizona.
And we were going to go to South
Okay.
Dakota and switch our
Yeah, we were
lives
going to go
over
to South Dakota to
our
that.
domicile.
Uh-huh.
And it just didn't sit right, and
Yeah.
we were just like, it just doesn't feel right.
Uh-huh.
This doesn't feel like what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So we bagged it. And we initially we asked them like, hey, we're going to stay a little longer. Can we like pay you like a monthly
Sure.
thing, or can we, and they're like, yeah, absolutely, you can stay. And then in that time, they decide that they want to put their house up for sale and move to South Carolina. And Joe
Yeah.
had to have knee surgery, and they had all these things that were happening to him. A lot of repairs needed done to the house, like upgrading and updating
Sure.
and stuff, railings, things like that. And the fifth wheel needed repaired, so just a lot on their plate at the time.
Yeah.
And then poor Joe was down for the count because of his knee surgery, and so in stepped Drew to kind of just help with that process.
Nice.
And I'm also a personal trainer on the side as well.
Oh,
so
okay.
just for fun, started training Jen, and we were doing training videos and things like that.
Nice.
And I don't know, a month or two had gone by. And I get restless, I'm not going to lie. And I was like, what are we doing here?
Uh-huh.
What is going on? This is, what does God want us to do? I feel like we're not doing anything. We're just hanging out
Uh-huh.
at this property, like doing nothing.
Wow.
And, I'm looking for that big event that we needed to do,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And we were talking about it one night, and I was complaining about how I'm just restless and I feel like we need to go, and this is ridiculous, and what are we doing, And he just said, well, I don't know why, but I feel like we're supposed to be here. Okay. And so that was about pretty much the end of that. And the next day, I went over to talk to Jen. She was sitting on her porch, and she was half in tears, and she goes, we didn't know we needed you until you showed up.
Wow.
And
Wow.
she was basically like, we just feel, it's so incredible how God sent 2 missionaries to our front door.
Wow. That's neat.
And got to know you before we decided to let you stay.
Right.
On and on. And
Yeah.
she had an Airbnb in the house, and at one point this needed a
So-
big repair.
Yeah.
She never lets dogs into the Airbnb. She's like, you know what? Hang on. Why don't you just stay in the Airbnb? I'm like, well, you don't let dogs stay. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine.
Wow.
And we stayed in there, and it was just all these things that just connected us.
So we were on the porch, and she said all of that, and that's when I realized that we were already doing the thing that we were meant to be doing.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good.
And so,
Unbeknownst
you're
to
not
you.
looking
Wow.
for the big things. And I mean, you are.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's the things that
The
you would
little
just
things.
do in your life anyway.
Uh-huh.
Help someone with repairs to the house, just help, whatever it is. And you don't realize the impact that you're making in someone
Right.
else's life.
That's good.
Kind of was the big lesson,
Yeah.
That was a big lesson. So we were there then for 3 months, I guess,
Yeah,
before
full
we ended
straight
up going
3
out.
months we were there.
Wow.
Just
And-
when they needed you.
Yeah, and
I
they
mean, it was the smallest things. Like
they were leaving like a week or two after we left.
Yeah,
I
it
can't
was, it was
remember.
like 10 days after we left.
Yeah.
So-
we had gotten a job in Idaho for the next summer.
So
Okay.
now they're in South Carolina,
Uh-huh.
and we'll just throw this story in because it is kind of related. So they're in South Carolina now, and that's who we're going to see.
Oh, okay. That's where you're
Um,
headed. Okay.
That's where we're headed. So
Okay.
that wasn't where we were going to be headed. With
Mhm.
the job that we were doing, we're just not really happy with the job. We spent the majority of the time just living in parking lots with the way the job is. Like we
Mhm.
would do surveys of properties.
Oh, okay.
And we would boondock
Mm-hmm.
on like behind grocery stores, things like that. And
Uh-huh.
it was just going from job to job. And we were in LA area most of the
Ugh.
time, and we're not fans of California,
Yeah.
just that whole thing. So,
Mhm.
we're at this, what are we doing?
Mhm.
That we feel like we're living to work instead of working to live. What happened?
Mhm.
And this was just a couple of months ago. And so we got to that point where I was like, I just feel like we should pray about it.
Mhm.
So,
Oh yeah, there's that.
oh yeah, it's always the last
we
thing.
kind of lost our way because we were in Jackson last year running a park.
And it was tough. It was a
it
tough
very
year.
Tough.
We had a
Tourist
lot of
towns
tough
are
things
tough.
going on.
They
I
are.
think.
The people are
Mhm.
tough,
Yep.
and it broke me down pretty hard,
Mm.
and I'm
So
still dealing with it.
Wow.
Sure.
So we'll just leave that at that.
Yeah.
I'm struggling at the moment with things, but
so it was a tough
Wow.
year, and all in all. We're starting to have
Uh-huh.
problems with our rig, and our income isn't what we had, obviously.
Oh sure, yeah.
And it's this big compared to what we had before. And
Yeah.
so we prayed about it, and two things happened almost within 24 hours. We got a call from Drew had reached out to our friends that we did our first job in Idaho.
Mhm.
I know
we
we're
became
kind of
close
jumping
to them.
around.
That's a whole nother story.
But
Mm-hmm.
he's like, hey, do you guys have any openings there? We'd love to come up. And no, I don't. I filled all my staff, and but I'll
Uh-huh.
let you know if something happens.
Wow.
And then after we had prayed, then he calls and he goes, you'll never guess what? We had a couple back out.
Wow.
And we were like, oh my gosh, this is so ridiculous. And so at that time, it was that night, we're like, okay, well, we're probably going to do that.
Mhm.
Well, it was going to be like a time of respite for us, if
Sure.
that makes sense.
I
Oh,
just
yeah.
said to him, let me think about it. Marlene was also talking about going back east and seeing family again. We've been away from home, and our moms are,
Mhm.
getting to that point, and
Sure.
and so then all of a sudden,
Yeah, so the next day, we're walking around doing our job,
Mhm.
and I get a text message from Jen, and she said, I was just wondering if you guys had made decisions on what you're doing for the summer.
Wow.
And I said, well, funny enough, we're really deciding what we want to do.
Mhm.
We're kind of at this crossroads again.
Yeah.
And we ended up calling her that night. And as we were talking, she starts sharing that her husband's mother is in Idaho and she's not doing well. She's in her 90s and she's just kind of going
Mhm.
downhill. And he hasn't really had the chance to go out and see her. But her mother also, that lives
Mhm.
with them, is not. She's independent, but she, just good to have somebody there. So they
Yeah.
didn't want to leave her and go spend this time in Idaho, and God
Mhm.
forbid something happened to her.
Right.
Makes sense?
Mhm.
So they were planning on a 6-week or so trip out to Idaho. And she said, so I'm just wondering if you guys, maybe would want to come
Mhm.
to the house, and you can stay in the house and you can put the rig here and you can, it was everything that we were kind of
yeah, we were
asking
getting
for?
antsy in the rig. It's been 3 years. We're
Yeah.
stepping over each
Yeah.
other.
Mhm.
There's no separation unless one's outside, one's
Yeah.
inside. And
Right.
You don't always want to be outside.
Sure.
Mhm.
You just want to sit on the couch. And,
Yeah.
RV couches are not the best or comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is true.
And so it was
So
like,
once again, we had more than one choice. He was like,
Mhm.
God was like, you can go to Idaho if you want. That is your respite care. You have friends there. You
Mhm.
can just do a job that you already know that's easy. But I'm also going to give you a purpose here. So
Mhm.
if you want to do that, you can too. And so we decided, well, we'd rather be useful.
Mhm.
And so that's now why we're heading to South Carolina. In
Okay.
the midst of that, our rig had broken down and we had some
Mm.
issues and whatever.
Yeah.
So plans have changed slightly, but we're still heading there.
Mhm.
Good.
And it's just funny, like everything kind of comes back around.
So had your rig not broken down, would you have ended up here?
No,